All right, so if you're watching this, you're watching this on the YouTube VOD, or you're watching this live. Plenty of people are live here. So, we have officially chopped off the nominations phase of the Floodgates for 2018. We are officially opening, as of this very moment, the voting phase for the Floodgates of 2018. Now, here's how this is going to work. I want to explain this nice and simple. Unfortunately, you cannot nominate FF6 for a low run, I'm afraid. I hate FF6 so much, and nobody wants to see it. So here's how it's going to work. Anybody who's seen the spreadsheet, in fact, here's a link to it. By all means, it doesn't even matter because it's a edit. You know, it's set to edit only for me, so whatever. In the upper left, we have what the elite patrons have requested for the coming year. So that means, one way or another, the games that I already know I'm going to ruminate on include Life is Strange. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Goetia? It's something from Bragwood. I've never even heard of it. Star Siege Tribes, Divinity Original Sin 2, Fire Emblem Fates, Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, Chrono Trigger, yes, again, Mystery Choice, and Fable 3. So these are things that are already decided. Now, that leaves us with exactly 34 slots for the coming year, okay? Just to make sure I'm being completely communicative, just in case, what I mean by a slot is every Friday, on the Friday Ruminations, we do one of these Friday Ruminations. That is one slot. One slot per week, 34 weeks to work through with. Don't worry, I've actually mathed it out to the exact week. I actually manually counted just to make sure we don't screw up on anything. So we have 34 slots that we can fill, and we have 81 slots that have been nominated. So I want you all to vote, all of you who are patrons, of course. The rest of you don't get a vote. I will be manually checking. I actually have a list of patrons right over there in order to make sure that you actually are a patron for your vote. Now, here's the way the voting actually works. I'm going to go and post this video over on Patreon with a YouTube thing, and you're going to go ahead and say there, hey, you know, I put my 3 votes towards this. So every patron gets 3 votes, except for the elite patrons. They don't get votes. But every patron gets 3 votes. What I mean by that is think of each vote as a currency. So, for example, let's say you really want the Zelda Breath of the Wild rumination to go in. So you look at the list here, and of course I'll be posting this on YouTube as well. And this is the list of all the 81 slots we have to work with. And you will say, I put all 3 votes to Zelda Breath of the Wild. So that 3 votes goes toward that. I will be doing all this manually, by the way. I've decided not to use straw poll, not to use the Concordat thing. I'm going to do all this manually and make it nice and open and honest. Let's say, for example, you want to nominate. Let's say you want Zelda Breath of the Wild, but you'd also kind of like to see Shadow and Dragonfall. So you can then say, you know, 1 vote for one and 1 vote for the other, and you still got a 3rd one to use. Here's the asterisk. If you decide to vote for anything that is a multi-slot thing, and you'll notice I've actually got the slots listed. So, for example, Xenosaga 1, 2, and 3 would be 3 slots. Dawn of War, Chaos Rising would be 2 slots, and so forth and so on. If you decide to vote for one of those, that will actually consume your voting slots. So in other words, you cannot vote for Xenosaga 1, 2, and 3 and anything else. That will consume all your votes. Make sense? So you can choose 3 individual slots or 1 multi-slot. These are your options. I would prefer you to go ahead and post this on Patreon for the Patreon post that I'm going to do there, and I'll be putting that up in mere moments here for those of you who are with us live, because that's going to make it easier to figure out who you are, because a lot of you don't have the same Twitch names and Patreon names, and again, I got to make sure that's there. And yes, Wilson, good question. You can absolutely vote for your own nomination. Now, part of the reason I wanted to do this live is I figured if anybody had any questions, this would be a good time to address them, like Wilson just asked. So does anyone have any questions about this process? Correct, all 3, Takoida. I sat down, did a little thinking, did a little math, and I decided if you're going to vote for a multi-slot, it consumes your votes, period. Right, so Shadow Machine asks a very good question. Of the 81 nominees, the ones that are not chosen will not be rolled over to the next year. No, we will be starting a completely fresh and new Floodgates cycle next year, probably about January. That's the idea. The general concept is to have each Floodgates Ruminations actually start in each March, and then have the new Floodgates chosen in January. That way there's a nice big chunk of time for me to get ready for the new stuff, and for you guys to have some say in what happens the next year. Which one is Fire Emblem 4? What happens in case of a tiebreaker? The coin. Oh yeah, obviously, I probably shouldn't have to say this, but the top 34 slots, you know, whichever ones have the most votes, those are the ones that get in. Just obviousness. Okay, genealogy. Where's that one? Okay, so the reason for Clone War... Actually, it's not Clone Wars Season 5. To be a little bit more specific, it is specifically about 3 or 4 episodes which form the finale of Clone Wars Season 5, from the episode Sabotage to the episode Wrong Jedi. That still qualifies as one slot because of the fact that that is effectively just watching a Star Wars movie at that point, and that is acceptable in this exact circumstance. It is not asking for Season 5, nor it is asking for Clone Wars in general. So this is an exception that I have made in this exact circumstance. That's the only reason I have accepted that. What happens in tiebreaker? I thought I already answered that. Did I already answer that? I feel like I already answered that. Correct, Carbon. The problem is there's so many different types of multi-slots, because we got a 3-slotter, a 2-slotter, a 5-slotter, a 4-slotter, a 2-slotter, and another 4-slotter, that I decided to, and again, after doing some math, to just even that out a little bit. Correct, Lurker. And again, if you, for example, really want Finding Paradise to happen, then you could just say, I'm going to drop all 3 of my votes on that. Again, physically think of it... Here, I'll use my Q-tips. Think of it as if you literally have 3 votes right here, and you could say, well, I want this one, and this one. Or, if you want something expensive, like a multi-slot thing, you just drop all of them into that, and the end, basically. So, any other questions? I just realized I'm actually wearing the wrong outfit. This is not my Ruminations outfit, but I just finished streaming. What do you want from me? Oh, and obviously everything on this list is acceptable for me to ruminate on, because otherwise I wouldn't accept it as a nomination. The filtering happens at the nomination phase, not the voting phase. As of this moment, everything on this list is something I am okay with doing a video on. And everything over there is something that I have to do a video on, because... Yay. Going to go ahead and start setting up the post here, where this will be posted, while we see if anybody else has any questions. Oh, I need to delete the old post, too. Oh, that's right. One last thing. I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm okay with you guys politicking about this. In other words, campaigning, for lack of a better statement, to get one particular thing nominated or whatever. In fact, when I was actually sitting down and thinking about this, one of the ideas I had was for there to literally be a council of patrons in order to decide what is voted on. The only reason I didn't make that official was because I figured that'd be a little bit too much paperwork for you guys to deal with. You are okay to vote, NLG, I think? Let me actually double check. What's your Patreon name? So I can check. But basically, everyone who is currently a patron, who has currently put actual money into the show, so is a real patron, gets a vote. Gets the same amount of votes. The only exception to that is the elite patrons. Those are the guys who, they just get to say, I want you to ruminate on this, and I don't get a say in the matter. They just... Except unless it's something that, obviously, is unallowed. Like, I actually had 2 people come to me, as 2 elite patrons who are like, I want you to do this show. And I'm like, guys, no shows. Oh, by the way, I will be keeping track. So this is another question that someone should have asked, or I should have stated, or whatever. I will be keeping track of the votes on this same spreadsheet, so you'll be able to see how this is tallying up as we go. So, for example, this is all made-up numbers. None of this is real right now. But, for example, for those of you watching, let's say Breath of the Wild got 2 votes right now, and Before the Storm got 3, and Bright got 5. We'll do it like that. I'll just do it nice and Roman, probably. Or maybe I'll do it like this. We'll make it easier. We'll do it like that. And I'll keep track of the votes that way. And that way, people will be able to see what is getting voted for and where the common spread is. Twitch subs do not get votes, no. Twitch subs decide what I stream. The 2 sides of the show are completely segregated. What is the difference between elite patrons and common peasants? An elite patron has put a very large amount of money into my show. I'm not giving out exact numbers, but all I'll say right now is 4 digits. So that's what determines an elite patron. It's not intended to be an actual incentive. It's more intended to be a way for me to be like, hey, thank you for supporting me. So I shouldn't even call it elite patrons. I don't have a better term. People who are awesome? I don't know. But I just want to say thank you to the people who've, you know, helped me to pay my bills every month. Anyways, okay, so we got that done. I'm gonna keep setting this up really quick here. No, Carbon, it does not. I think that's everything. Seniority? No, seniority doesn't really count for anything. No offense. Like, for example, let me just give you a particular idea. You know what, I'm not going to call anyone out individually, but I actually see a couple people on my patrons list who put in, again, not naming anybody, but put in $1 a month and have put in, you know, like, say, what have we got here? $32 total. So, in other words, they've been a patron for 32 months, right? So that's a patron for a long time. But it's still $32. I hope I'm explaining. I feel scummy explaining this way. Guys, the people who pay more money get the preferential treatment. There's no nice way to say this. There really isn't. But I'm just going to be honest about it, because that is what it is. The people who really put a lot of money in the show, I want to give them, you know, here, you get to just choose. You get a choice. So, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and chop off the recording.